Welcome, everybody, to the Age of Becoming. My name is Susan McCulley, and I am delighted to be here today with Lynsie McKeown. Lynsie and I met several years ago, and I coached her for her fantastic TED Talk, which you can find online, and we will put a link to, which was such a joy to work together. And I've also taken yoga classes from you, but you really are so much more than that. And you are a mentor, a spiritual mentor to women. And what you do is take the ancient teachings of yoga and blend them with modern neuroscience. And that is right up my alley. I love that so much. And we got talking about a bunch of different things in threads on Facebook, and we said, okay, we need to just have a conversation. Am I right? So welcome, Lynsie. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
It's so great to be together. So one of the things that we talked about was, at least for me, a conflicted relationship with the idea of the law of attraction or manifestation. That for me, it feels like it's a little bit, sometimes a lot more complicated than that, a little bit fraught, a little bit hyper individualism, and a little bit privilege too. So I just would love to talk about how you see the law of attraction and manifestation, and then I will have a zillion questions.
Okay. Well, first, let me tell everyone what an amazing coach you were for me. You saved my butt for that TED Talk, because I actually was assigned a coach for it through TED for free, and I was
That's
like,
right.
not good. This coach is not good, and someone recommended you, and you were just so beautiful in your ability to really hear what I wanted to say and help me flesh out my ideas, and coach me with such compassion and lightheartedness, which I really needed because I was feeling so much pressure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you showing up for me, because we always need people to show up for us all the time, but you really stepped in a way that helped me do a really great talk that I can do.
So yeah, you really did deliver just a fantastic talk, and yeah, and especially when it's a big deal to stand up in front of people and say something that really matters to you, that you want to make a difference in the world. There's a lot of energy around that. I'll say it that way. Yeah, such a great process. I loved doing that with you. And yeah, I fell in love with you a little bit during that, for sure.
Really mutual. Yeah, but to answer your question around the law of attraction, I've had time to develop my point of view around that over the last 12 years, because I actually came across it. One of the first spiritual teachings I came across before I was even doing yoga or meditation, and it gave me a sense of hope, because I was really in a really dark place. I was really in my pit of despair, where I had lost nearly everything, and everyone's like, oh, here's this amazing spiritual teaching that can really change your life. All you have to do is change your thoughts. And so I worked very hard at that. I mean, I had my affirmations that I would repeat 100 times, 3 times a day, over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it didn't work. It did not work. But no one told me that the law of attraction is a 5,000-year-old theory with no methodology to back it up. There are 12 spiritual laws out there, and so you can't just focus on one and think that that's all there is to it. It's like when we go and think that the yoga practice is just all asana, and that's not true. There's so many layers to yoga, and so there's so many layers to these spiritual laws. And what it did for me, the law of attraction in the beginning, was make me feel like I was doing something wrong. Like everyone else was having results. And so then what it did is it actually made the belief systems that were actually making the law of attraction not work for me, like the feelings of not being worthy enough, not being good enough. It actually ingrained that in me even more.
Yeah, reinforced that, exactly that.
Right. Yeah, and so now I had validation. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm doing something wrong. Something must be wrong with me if it's not working. And so it actually made things worse in some ways for me, because I started to feel it deepened my depression or my anxiety around things. And it took some time and many different teachers start to put different pieces together, like, oh, wait a second, here's this other piece of this teaching and another piece of this teaching. And when you put them together, you have more of a complete picture of how this can actually work for you. So we can't take something that is so complex and simplify it down to just change your thoughts, change your life. Because
it's the American way, Lynsie.
Let's get the shortcut, you know?
Is there a pill that I could take while wearing Lululemon clothes and become enlightened? Yeah. Right. So I love that. And I love the connection with yoga too, because I think that is also sort of the American way of very reductionist, right? And leaving out whole scads of underpinnings to this complex, I don't know, what is it? Like, I want to say a function of the universe or something like that. It's like, yeah. So what happened as you started weaving the pieces of teachings together?
Well, for me, let me back up a little bit, because it wasn't just, I had to go in and get a lot of support from different areas. So I was in therapy for a while. I did, then I started doing yoga, and just dabbling in other types of spiritual traditions. So it took a while to kind of pull the pieces together and make it make sense to me. But what I realized is that it was really with me meeting myself, like my younger self, and having a conversation with her and all of her beliefs that she learned through her parents, through her school system, through society, and this indoctrination of beliefs that were really holding me back. And I had to go in and do deeper work. I really had to understand what I believed to be true, because whatever you believe to be true is what you're saying yes to. Because you're always saying yes to something.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's even if it's in the negative, you're saying yes to that, essentially, because that's how the universe responds. It's always responding to you. But even my little affirmations are like a 70-pound weakling going up against the Arnold Schwarzenegger of decades of beliefs that I wasn't good enough. And so so I had to go in and weaken that belief system that was in my subconscious mind, so that anything I said consciously had a chance to land. And so there's a lot of different things that I've pulled together from the yoga tradition and from neuroscience to help with that. And it's an ongoing process. It's not like,
You mean you're not just fixed? You're not just fixed. Yeah. No. Yeah.
No.
And can I just ask a question about that? Because I've been doing some of my own practices about my own personal beliefs that I've carried for my life, that as I uncover them, I'm like, holy smokes, like, where did that kind of thing come from? But I'm also uncovering kind of cultural beliefs, things that just by being in this society, in this culture as it's established, that I have taken on beliefs sort of like dye in cloth. I didn't do it on purpose, but I am recently discovering that there are certain things that I didn't mean to believe, but I do. And so it's the excavation for me. it's both the things that I personally have taken on, usually, as you say, when I was very young, and then the other kind of cultural things from just being the water that I'm swimming in. Does that resonate with you? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I love the way you said excavation, because in a lot of my groups, when I'm mentoring women, I talk about, like, this is like, we're going in and we're doing an archaeological dig. It's just one layer that we go through, and then we go through another layer, and then we go through another layer, because we can't uncover them all at once. It would be too much for our brains, our nervous system, and we need to go layer upon layer so that we can actually really integrate it and take a time to really look at it. So I wasn't really quite clear on what your question was around that. You're asking me, like, if I've had some of these other beliefs come up that I realized were more cultural.
Yeah.
Well, I can give you a great example from that, because, I was alone for a really long time, and that was really hard. Or I kept manifesting, relationships that were with men that were didn't really honor me who I was. There's a lot of disloyalty and cheating and lying and taking advantage of, and all that. It just kept coming in over and over again. So I took some time to be completely by myself for several years, actually, and really started to get clear on what it is that I wanted. And I wrote down every single thing that I wanted in a relationship. And then someone came into my life around mid 2019. Great connection with this person, like, just so easy. And now I look back and I look at on paper, and this person is exactly who I had wanted to come in. There's only one thing that was different: the pronoun.
Right.
And I was like, okay, because when things started to shift for me around this person, I was like, wait a second, I'm not gay. I'm not a lesbian. But yet here's this person presenting herself to me, and she's everything that I've ever wanted in a relationship, and treating me exactly the way I wanted, showing up for me exactly the way I needed. And so it's a long story behind this. I'll write it in my book one day. But it was just like the universe kept giving me these signs and giving me these signs. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. And she's probably like, in her head, she tells the story now. She's like, I know what it means. I mean, seriously, I had a clear message come into my head one day: love is love. And I had you have to forgive me, but I didn't know what that meant. And she, of course, being gay her whole life, like, I know what that means. So it took a while for me to be like, wait a second, this is a belief about myself around relationships that I really had to sit with and make peace with. I was like, okay, can I just let go of labels? Because love isn't in a box. It doesn't have labels to it. Can I allow this person into my life, even though I've identified as a heterosexual my entire life? And so it was very fascinating for me to take witness of my beliefs in that moment, what I thought what love was to me. And so when I allowed that belief to fall away, I could step into the best relationship I've ever had. And so, and having all those conversations with my friends and my mama.
Yeah.
And her beliefs, and having to have the conversation with her around her belief systems. It was interesting.
Right. And it's one of those situations, it seems to me, that when we allow ourselves to stand fully in who we are, what we want, what resonates and matters to us, that we do open the space for other people to do the same thing. And so every one of those conversations that you had allows all of those people to say, why do I believe that? Do I really believe that?
Also made me realize how many beliefs I thought they had that they didn't actually have.
Right, the assumptions.
Yeah, I was like,
Right.
so like, what are they gonna think? And they're like, totally embrace me, and like, that's when you know that you cultivate a really good network of friends that's
Yeah.
and support system too. It's just like, just fully embrace me and Laura and happy for me. And so it was just like, oh, okay, I believe that you believe this, but I was wrong on that because we've never actually had a conversation
Right.
around it.
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh. Mm. That's so beautiful. And I knew the story, but I love hearing it anyway. Again. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that in regards to manifestation and the law of attraction, this is part of the thing is this uncovering this willingness to look with kind of pure curiosity. I love the idea of the archaeologists with its, their little brushes, and they're just brushing away the stuff to see what's there. And if there's nothing there, that's fine with an archaeologist. And if there are bones there, that's cool. And if there are coins, if like whatever it is, they're just there to find it. And that takes some courage. That takes some willingness to say, I'm here to discover without expectation, without I'm happy to find love under these circumstances. Right. Yeah.
Patience too, which is such an underrated.
Mm,
In our culture, we're like, no, no, I want it now, I want it now. But if like the archaeologist had those little teeny tiny tools, just one little brush at a time, little stroke, and with that patience and the perseverance, just to go slow and take your time, so much more is revealed instead of going in with a bulldozer and just kind of making a mess of things and trying to just get to
oh,
want to get to the treasure now.
right.
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, in this, again, when we're talking about the alignment between these ancient ideas and neuroscience, I mean, we know about habit formation that consistency, little choices over time is I mean, way more impactful than doing something super intense for a short amount of time.
Exactly.
And so one of the things that I've heard you talk about is maybe instead of the law of attraction, it's the law of becoming. It's the law of like embodiment. Say more about that. I'll just toss that to you.
Yeah, it's like I think Wayne Dyer summed it up in the 7 words, like uh you attract what you are, not what you want. And so we have to look at like all of our beliefs, all of our patterns, like our thoughts over time, over repetition after repetition, we create these beliefs, which is going to create feelings within us, which is going to create actions, and our actions are going to create what we have in our life. So if what you have in your life is not abundant, you're not feeling fulfilled or joyful, if you feel like you're always in lack, then you have to backtrack and say, okay, what are the actions that I'm taking, and how are those tied to how I'm feeling, and how is that tied to what my beliefs are? Because if we're not paying attention to that, then we're just going to keep repeating things over and over again, and we're not really stepping into the fullness of who we are. But when we start to really do that archaeological dig, what happens is we can start to discover, what's driving those actions, patterns, beliefs, and start to disempower them, while at the same time empowering ourselves to step into more alignment of who we are. And so we're becoming that which we want to attract. So with me, I help women like connect to igniting the energies within them of confidence, of joy, of fulfillment, of radiance, of strength, of courage. Because if you are emanating that, if you truly become that, then everything is going to come to you. It's like the law of magnetism. You're the magnet for it. So it's not about reaching out there and trying to grasp for more joy or more money or a loving partner. You have to know your own self-worth, like that you are worthy. you have to understand that you are the love, that you are the confidence and the radiance that you want more of in your life. And then so when you really step into that and become it, all of a sudden the attraction just happens naturally without having to repeat thousands of affirmations. Affirmations are nice to remind us, they create a pattern interrupt for the brain. But if you're not really radiating that, if you're not emitting that energy, you say, for example, you could attract something, but you're not going to be able to hold on to it if you're not really that magnet for it. That's why a lot of people, they use this example all the time. That's why some people who win the lottery can't hold on to the money, or they get the relationship and they can't hold on to it, or they get the job and they lose it. So it's because for a moment they were able to align with it, but because they haven't been living that way and becoming that way, then they can't hold on to it. So we want to actually become what we want in our lives first, and then everything else will come, in the right timing.
Right. And so, okay, so I have a couple of questions about that. Yeah. One thing that comes up for me is different people, depending on what your life circumstances are, you may have more or less control over those circumstances. So I'm thinking about things like sexism, all the isms, the sexism, racism, homophobia, all of the, fat phobia, all of the things that aren't necessarily your doing, but they are part of your experience and what you need to navigate. And so I'm curious what your thinking is around that. Yeah. I have thoughts, okay. But I want to hear what you think about
give me one at a time, because I want.
Yeah, I know. The rapid fire.
So it's like, this has been difficult for me to work through as well. But it really comes down to our perception. So what are we perceiving to be true about ourselves, other people in the world around us? And so whatever we believe to be true is what we're going to see all the time. And so it doesn't take away the beliefs that other people have and in a lot of the systems that we currently have in our world. But what we can start to do is shift our perception around it in a way that we're not the victim any longer. That instead of, hey, here's an opportunity. How can I look at this as an opportunity to step more into my fullness, more into my power? And when I do that, when I really step in and do the inner work and align myself to my own empowered being, then you can suddenly get the information that you need to come in, the guidance that you need to come in to start to make the changes in the external world. So, and it's all about, if you constantly see it as a struggle or something to overcome, or all of these barriers against us, then it's going to constantly be that way. So we want to be like, okay, how can I change my perception around this? And look for the opportunity for change and come at it from a different energy. Because if you come at it from, I have to fight this, it's going to bring more fight energy to you. And so how can I come at this with more compassion, which, we know that was not so easy to do. We've been really challenged with that the past 5+ years. Lord have mercy.
You speak the truth, my friend.
And so, but that's the thing. And when we're being called, like the law of attraction, I think came in at a time at a level of our spiritual understanding. But now we need to up level that. It gave us something to step on, and now we need to bring in more spiritual teachings to help us up level and step forward to meet some of these challenges. And so, and the world is responding and giving us the challenges for us to overcome and move through. I don't even like to really say overcome. I like to really say, like, how can we have the fortitude to move through it? Because when we have the fortitude to move through it, we can gain the wisdom from those experiences.
Right. It's not a dominant thing. It's a processing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I clearly answered your question around it, but
Yes. Okay. So here's a good opportunity for me to get some help from you. So here's an example for me is that I am aware of more and more about the misogyny that is inherent in the fabric of our culture. And I identify as a woman, and yet I notice in myself that I hold some of the same biases. Somebody tells me that they went to the doctor, I immediately think it's a man. And I catch myself saying, oh, wait, I know plenty of women doctors, but that's my my first my first reflex is to assume that. And so I'm aware that I have taken that on. And so if I'm understanding you, is can I look at that as an opportunity to heal that in myself, or shift that in myself, so that I'm not, instead of just being mad at everybody, that I'm actually shifting something in me that invites that to shift in a bigger way. Is that?
yeah, it makes sense. And yes, I think there is that opportunity because awareness is key. It's one of the first steps. If we're not aware, then we're just walking around repeating the same stuff over and over again. But in that moment is this beautiful awareness that's coming in. And sometimes when we're aware of something that we don't want to think or feel or do, we immediately go to judgment. And that actually is a very, very low vibration. And so instead, in that awareness, we can look at it like, sometimes I teach it in meditation, the mind wanders. And oftentimes when we realize that it's wandered, we bring it back to whatever we're working on, whether the breath or a kriya or an image or something. And oftentimes people want to judge themselves. Oh, there my mind wanders again. But you forget, but in that instant, that spirit coming in and tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, come back to your practice. And that's magic. That is what is, that's a miracle. We're always looking for, that's a miracle moment when that moment of awareness. So when you, for example, what you said, when you feel like you're having a misogynistic kind of point of view about, all doctors are males, then you can say, okay, wait a second. I just had that awareness. So you forgive yourself for the thought. That's super important. And then you just anchor in a new thought at that. When you are able to say, oh, wow, I was aware. Good job, Susan. Good job, because celebration is really super important for the brain. Because when you say good job, you actually pat yourself on the back, or get excited that oh my gosh, I had this awareness moment. Then it sends a signal to your brain to release dopamine, endorphins, serotonin, and that's just like a little hit for your brain to do it again and again and again, because your brain loves dopamine. And so in that moment, then you forgive yourself. It's okay. I'm learning, and I'm willing to keep relearning. And then in that moment, then you anchor something new in, and you say, okay, how many women doctors do I know? And they're amazing. And so what you've done is you've created this beautiful pattern interrupt in the brain, and you're creating a new neurological groove that over time will become your new way of thinking about doctors.
Right.
And so that's super important. And we have to just catch ourselves all the time, not catch ourselves and flagellate ourselves, or have our judgment, because that just sends us down and makes us feel awful. And so we just keep anchoring to joy. Just keep anchoring to that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what this also brings up is the importance of support, of setting up our support systems, so that, I know that having people in my life who remind me when I forget, sort of act as spirit surrogate, and they tap me on the shoulder and say, oh, right, remember this? And without judgment, I mean support when I say that. And that just seems super powerful and essential for all of us, no matter where we are on the path. We all forget sometimes. We all need reminders, and I think that, again, like culturally, this sort of hyper individual, like I can do it, the bootstrapping bullshit, instead, how do we hold each other up and step in when we've forgotten?
Yeah, and it brings up so many things that, lines of thought coming in. One, that anyone that says they're self-made is full of bullshit.
I know, it's ridiculous.
We always have support coming in through education, through family, through mentors, through educators. It's like, okay, you didn't do this all on your own, and you never have. There's always been someone there supporting you. And then the importance of, as adults, I hear this often from women, is that they don't feel like they have community. And so you're creating this amazing community in your Facebook group, which I follow all the time. You always have amazing content. But it's really important to have that community. And it's actually I teach a free class called the 5 Steps of to Thriving and Fulfillment. And one of the steps is community. Because if you are feel like you're failing in all the other steps, the community is the one that's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, Susan, don't you remember what an amazing TEDx coach you are? And how much you're showing up for all these women. And they help you remember your practices. They help you remember that you're a divine being, or that you're strong and courageous, and that bring you back to, the core of what is really true for you. And so community is so essential.
Yeah. And I think that for me, one of the things that I'm learning is a very mindfully chosen community, that just being very clear about the kind of support that I want to both offer and receive. And one of the things that I've noticed as I've gotten older as a woman is that my female relationships when I was younger had a fair amount of competition, self or other criticism. They were not transparent relationships, many of them, if not most of them. And it was only when I was maybe in my mid 30s that I started to really have a sense for what could happen when I got in relationship with people who were truly supporting me, it's truly wanting the best for me, and me for them. And so I think that is, again, it's like it can be a habitual relationship pattern or community pattern to kind of be self-deprecating, or like I can't do this, but you can, like all that stuff is instead is just really holding the genius of each of us, without the corrosive, toxic side of it. So I guess that's a lot of talking for being aware of who I'm choosing to be in community and asking for support from. Yeah.
And I think, the age of becoming is really about becoming the person that you want to receive support from and support. So in the sense, what I'm trying to say is that if you're really dedicated to doing the deeper inner work and understanding what it is you want, what's getting in the way of that, and understanding who you're meant to be, and in that process of becoming that woman, what happens is you get super clear on the support that you want. You also, get rid of all those beliefs that kind of make you that person that's judgmental of yourself or others, because you're not insecure. You actually start to have self-trust and trust in something greater than yourself, and you start to realize how amazing you actually are, and then claim that without apologizing. My group is like Women Thriving Unapologetically, because we apologize for that stuff all the time. Like, we want to step into our full radiance and be like, this is me. I'm putting a stake in the ground, and I'm not going to apologize for how amazing I am, because you're uncomfortable with your own amazingness.
Right.
So,
Oh, that's so well said. That's so well said. Man, it's totally bringing up Sonia Renee Taylor's work of Your Body is Not an Apology. And that's exactly what she talks about as well. So, but you said it very, very beautifully. And so one of the things that has been showing up for me, and that you and I have talked about in the past, is, well, you've talked about it in terms of going at your own pace. I would love to talk about that, but also I find that really means allowing myself to slow down and to, I think about it like disengaging the clutch, right? The gears are going, and can you just disengage the clutch a little bit?
Group, people remember what a clutch is.
Yeah, I know, right? Who else other than me drove a stick shift?
Oh, I love them.
Yes, I know. They were so bad to the bone. I always felt like, even if it was like my little Honda Civic, I always felt like I was badass when I was driving my stick. But that sense of kind of stepping back, of slowing down, maybe just run with that and tell me what comes up as I say that.
Honor your pace is really about taking a moment to pause and reflect on, is the pace that you're running in your life right now, are you trying to keep up with the chaotic world around you? Are you trying to keep up with the people that you're following on social media? Are you trying to keep up with your friends? Are you trying to keep up with societal norms of what success means, what beauty means, and all of that? And honor your pace means really, okay, what is the pace that is going to be the most self-honoring and the self-nurturing for me? Because it's going to look very different for what it looks like for you or for someone else. But what we do oftentimes is we look outside of ourselves and we try to keep up with all of these expectations that society has put on us, our parents, ourselves, and it's not in alignment with who we are. So what happens is when we take pause and get still and reflect on these things, we can actually find a pace that is in rhythm with our own purpose. Like we have to align ourselves to what we want in our heart, not in our heads. So we have to get clear on that first. And when you're in alignment with that, then you can start to find a pace and a rhythm that will allow you to actually bring in those things that you want. So if you're going at this frenetic pace, a chaotic pace that keeps you in overwhelm, exhaustion, if you're feeling not good enough, if you're constantly self-degrading yourselves or judging others and all of that stuff, what happens is that you are just wearing yourself so thin and so down that you're never actually going to be able to live a fulfilled life that is joyful and easeful. But when you go at a rhythm that is really in cadence for you and your unique gifts that you want to bring forward to the world, then everything else, things become more effortless. It's like, I call it effortless effort. You still have to apply effort, but you want it to feel effortless. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can breathe, I can move, and I can let go. Like I can look at someone else and celebrate what they're achieving in their life. But I also know that, okay, that's not my pace. If I go at that pace, I want to feel awful. And I did
Right.
that for a really long time.
Yeah, tell us about that, because you went through this not long ago, just sort of like, holy moly, yeah.
Yeah, it was about a little more than a year ago that I had to had to stop. I mean, I actually had I joined actually a group where I had a great coach, and she had me list out every single thing that I was doing. I mean, I had one of those yellow legal pads, double columns, full, and she's just like, I mean, on every single social media, because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm doing everything that everyone's telling me to do. I'm reading all the books, applying all the methods on every single social media platform. I'm trying to do a YouTube channel, on Insight Timer, everything, and by myself. Like, and I was just like, and I was not doing it well, and I was constantly in overwhelm and feeling like I wasn't doing enough. Why am I not? I have such a deep passion to serve women, and I wasn't able to do it the way that I really wanted to do it because I was buried in all the stuff. And so this great coach, she said, like, okay, I want you to take everything off your plate, but the two things that are generating money right now. And I'm like, I cried. I cried because one, I was afraid of not doing. If I don't do this, nothing's going to happen. If I don't push myself, nothing's going to happen. All that, like pushing, striving, over efforting, clinging, and trying to control the outcome. I was afraid of letting go of that. But then the other part of me cried because she was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. Yeah. Can we just stop, please?
Yeah.
Which is a similar feeling to what I had around the pandemic. I was like, oh my God, everyone's slowing down. Now I can slow down.
Right.
And so in doing that, it was really uncomfortable for a long period of time. I mean, I probably got a little too comfortable in the not doing. So then I had to but it gave me great clarity. Okay, I've always known for a while what my purpose is, but how do I want to show up? How can I show up fully? And how can I be ease around these things? I don't need to be everywhere. Like where are my people? How can I just connect with them on this one platform and maybe these two platforms? And that's it. And then I can show up more consistently. Then I can show up fully. I don't have to, and I was getting migraines 3 times a week. And then headaches pretty much every other day in between. I maybe had 1 day a week where I didn't have a headache or feel completely like wrecked. And how can you show up and mentor people from that place?
Right.
So it was like, okay, get super clear, wipe all that other stuff off. I still have the same purpose and want to show up in the same way, but now I don't have all this stuff and the pressure on me to do that. And it's much more easeful,
Right. And I do think I just want to reflect back that I think that again, from a cultural standpoint, we do have this fear that if I stop, I mean, there is an equation with stopping with death, like that's the
I'll no longer be relevant.
Right. And yeah, right. And that and fear of missing out, all of that. Yeah. And I think that the image that I had was, I know that feeling of, it's like being on a treadmill that's set just a little beyond my ability.
Yeah.
And there's no fun that's going to be happening there. And there's no good, like there's nothing that I'm going to be able to do except for maybe barely keep myself upright. But I'm likely to get hurt. I'm likely, to be exhausted, all of that. So I really appreciate that. And then, so one question is, do you still feel afraid of going at the pace that you're going? Or once you've kind of gotten into that cadence, if you will, do you find that you're like, okay, I don't, or if the fear comes up, it's not as strong?
Great question. I mean, at first, like when I was doing this, I was like, it took me a while to find my rhythm because I was like, okay, I'm going so slow, and then I want to go a little bit faster. And then it didn't work. And then I had to go slower than I did before. And at one point in time, I felt like 100-year-old Galapagos turtle I was like, this can't be my face. This really cannot be my face. I want to be the hair, but I'm not. And I had to make peace with that. And so now it's like, I do feel myself, like when I'm launching a program or something like that, there has to be a certain amount of effort that comes forward, but I have to be very careful. I pay attention to how I'm feeling in my body.
Yeah.
And if I start to feel that contraction, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I know what that means. I have to be able to take pause, because it's in the pauses. Like when you go to stillness, the stopping actually is the starting. Like when you stop and go into stillness, that is your point of acceleration. Because in that stillness, you're resting, you're calming your nervous system down, you're realigning with your guidance system, which is much more on point than your head. And when you do that, what happens is like, okay, I'm not making as many mistakes because I've slowed myself down. I've gotten aligned with my inner guidance. So that way I know the steps to take instead of taking a million of them scattered. And so I end up saving time as well. And everything feels better. And I'm so glad you said the word fun, because if people are really about manifesting, you gotta have fun. If you're not having fun, it's going to be so much more difficult to bring in what you want, because the highest vibration there is appreciation and joy, laughter. And if you're not getting that in, you're going to be slogging through it a lot more.
I say this to people all the time about movement, is like, if you are hating every minute that you are moving, I don't think I have any research on this. Maybe there is research though, but I'd love to find it. Is if you are hating every minute that you are moving your body's receiving that differently than if you're having a blast, and that you either are just like laughing and having fun, or like in nature and full of wonder and amazement at just the miracles everywhere. And so what I often say to people is, this movement that I teach, I think is friggin' awesome. And I love doing it. And I do it all the time because it's fun, not because I'm doing something I'm supposed to be doing. And this may be the case for you too, but what's important is you finding what lights you up. And if that's swinging a kettlebell and running on the treadmill, then go. But if you hate that it's not going to work for you.
No, because we learn through repetition, or two ways we learn. We learn through repetition or a significant emotional event. So if you're getting out there and you're repeating this movement over and over again and hating it, you're teaching your nervous system that this is something that you don't like, and it makes it harder to come and do it in the future. It's going to feel like, oh my God, I have to drag myself there. But if you're doing it with laughter and fun, you're getting that neurochemical release in the brain, which rewards you for it, and your body, your nervous system, like, oh, I really enjoy that, and that feels good. I'm getting the reward, like the Pavlov's dog, and so it's going to be easier for you to go and do that. And that's the same thing with your work. Like if you're sitting at your computer and if I'm in this moment where I'm hating it, I'm like, okay, I need to get up. I'm getting up. I'm going to go in the other room, some music on that really helps me feel good again. And then when I'm feeling good, then I come back to work and I do something, because now I'm in alignment. Now I have this high vibration, so that when I sit down and write a blog, reach out to a client, I'm in this state of full receptivity and giving, instead of just this, like, because they can feel that. You can feel like,
sure,
through the computer or through an email, or so it's like interrupt the pattern with something that feels good.
Oh yeah, I'm all about that. Lynsie, there's so much, and
one thing about the law of attraction before we
I was just gonna say, what have I not asked you? What else do we need to talk about?
There's one thing I just want to say, like when our culture said that we can have it all, we're not meant to have it all. We'll burst that bubble right now. because we are meant to have what is in alignment with our purpose, like what our soul's calling is. And we're not all meant to be Oprah Winfrey or Bill Gates or whatever it is, that whoever we want to be or whatever we want to have in our life. So there is this thing like, okay, what is my dharma? What is my soul's calling? And what are the resources I need to fulfill that? And we all have different reasons, and that's going to vary depending on what it is that you're meant to bring forward. And so, and there's also this piece called Mahavidyas karma that, you know, we're bringing in everything from, some people may or may not believe it, depends on what your faith is, but you're bringing in all these experiences from past lives that are affecting what's happening in your present moment now. And so we might not be meant to have the mansion with the 5 cars and the yacht and all those things, because we have a lot of stuff that we have to fulfill in this life to clean that up, while at the same time making sure that what we're doing now is going to shift our future. And so we're not meant to have it all. We're meant to have exactly what it is that's in alignment with our calling.
Oh, that's so helpful. And I think as women, there's often that message that you can have it, and by the way, you also should be doing it all, you know, for everyone else, and all of that, and with a smile on your face, and no resentment, you know, like, and I just appreciate that. It's like that the clarity of no, that's not a thing.
No, it's not a thing.
It doesn't make any sense, really, if you think about it anyway. That, I mean, even if you are just thinking about this life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I appreciate that. That feels lighter, just having said that. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. But then it comes back to this discernment, this pausing, this checking in with, you know, am I resourced to do this? Do I have the resources and the energy to do this right now? And is this in alignment with what I want to be creating in the world and in my life right now? Yeah, that's so good. Yes, thank you. So anything else? What else have I not asked you about that
Oh, no, we always have such good things to talk about. And I know we don't have a tremendous amount more time left, but we can always do another one.
Yes. Well, here's what I would love is to tell us what you're working on now, what you're offering, where we can find you, and all of that.
Well, I'm very clear on what my calling is, and that's to serve women who really want to go in and heal those old wounds that need to be mended and that are holding them back, and to transform some of those beliefs that are just not serving them, and do that, you know, that inquiry and that excavation around, like, wait a second, I didn't realize I had this belief, and this belief is actually keeping me from really truly thriving. So we do the whole process of healing and transforming so that you can thrive. So I have this amazing 10-month journey for women to step into, and into the community and the container where they can be held. Because when you're really truly held, you can do the deeper work. You have the accountability, and I share all the practices, the combination of spiritual teachings and practices and neuroscience, so that you have the best tools to help you really step into your full radiance and ignite those energies of love and courage and all the divine feminine shaktis, which are energies within you, so you become exactly what you want in your life. And you don't have to strive so daggone hard and push so hard and, you know, compare yourself so hard. You could just be that person, and it's so much ease around that. So
that's the 10-month program.
That is, and I also have a 2-month immersion for those that are like, holy crap, 10 months, because, you know, a lot of like time. I don't have time. You know, I hear this
The
all the time.
scarcity. The scarcity.
I
Right on.
know, but you know, if we don't step in and do this now, how much time are you going to waste? You know, if you go in, you do the work and you're held and you're developing these great friendships and you're, you know, leaning on a mentor, things happen so much faster because you're getting the support. And then
Right.
you don't have to wait 5 years from now and be like, oh my God, why am I still here in this space?
Yeah, doing
But
the cycling around the same stuff. Yeah.
yeah, but I understand how sometimes we have to start smaller because we're like, let me just start with something smaller. So I have a 2 month, which is a deep dive immersion, unique to the soul's calling, meaning like the four desires of the soul. Like there's four of them, and how do we pay attention to each one of those? Because when you pay attention to each one of those, then you feel more fulfilled.
Genius. Well, I will include links to all of that, and I know you hang out on Facebook some. Are there any other platforms or your own or your website where might people just get more on you?
So I am on Facebook and Instagram. Well, they're linked. That makes it easy.
Good.
Save time. Don't be on too many platforms.
Yes.
You can go to my website, or I tell you what, if people want to connect with me, we can offer this for those that are listening to this. I can do a one-on-one complimentary clarity call.
Fantastic.
My website's not completely updated with everything. So if there's any interest in just receiving some support, just one-on-one for an hour, I'm super happy to offer that to your group complimentary. And then helping them discover, okay, what is it that I really want? What's getting in the way of that? And what are the steps I need to move forward in my life so that I can truly thrive in the way that I want to, and my relationships and career and finances and health and spiritual purpose.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's tremendously generous. Thank you so much. And so I will include all of that.
Okay.
And as always, Lynsie, it is just such a refreshing pleasure to connect with you and talk about all of this stuff. And as you say, I hope we do it again soon.
Yes, I always enjoy talking with you so much. Always such good conversations.
All right, my friend.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll talk again soon.
Okay, take care.